So after the weeks of speculation that we always get in the build-up to Watches and Wonders, today Rolex and Tudor have just announced their latest offerings for 2024. Spoiler alert, for all those people who've spent years complaining about the thickness of the Tudor Black Bay GMT, well, they're going to have to find something else to complain about. Now, I haven't had the chance to see any of these watches in the metal. As you can probably tell, I'm still here at home in the UK, but I am heading out to Geneva at the end of the week. I'll give you a more considered view on these new releases once I've had the chance to get hands-on with them. But for now, I wanted to just run through them with you and give you my initial reactions based on the press images and the videos that we've all now seen. Now today, I wanted to specifically talk about Tudor. Last year, we saw a pretty major step change from Tudor, with an overhaul of its core Black Bay 41 model line, with a slimmer and more curvaceous case, METAS certified movements, an amazing T-fit clasp with micro adjustment, and options on either a rubber strap or a 5-link Jubilee style bracelet. Originally launched with a burgundy bezel with gilt accents, unsurprisingly today Tudor's released it in a new colour, or a lack of colour I should say, as this new one is monochrome. It loses those gilt accents in favour of silver, with a matte black anodised aluminium bezel insert, or matte blue actually as the Tudor website says, which is either a typo or maybe a hint that a blue version might be on the way. I mean, you decide. Aside from this, it shares the same specifications as the gilt version with the burgundy bezel that was introduced last year. The price is also the same. If you're here in the UK, it's $3,820 for the steel bracelet version. But this year's big news, and I alluded to this in the introduction, is a new GMT. But rather than replacing the Black Bay GMT, we now have a Black Bay 58 GMT. Now anyone who knows their Black Bays will know that the current Black Bay GMT has a 41mm case with a much maligned thickness of 14.6mm, compared to the rather svelte proportions of the Black Bay 58. So the addition of the numbers 58 in the name of this watch immediately tell us that it's going to be much smaller, with the same 39mm case width as the Black Bay 58. Of course it's a GMT, so it's not as thin as a Black Bay 58. I mean, Tudor aren't miracle workers, but it uses a brand new and much thinner MT 5450 movement, which has enabled the case thickness to come down to a much more respectable 12.8mm. That movement is also METAS certified, and I think we can now be certain that Tudor's intention is to deliver either COSC or METAS certification across all of its sports watches. And aside from the dimensions, the colour scheme of this new 58 GMT is going to be popular. As I've already mentioned, Tudor frequently seems to look to the Rolex back catalogue for design inspiration, and this time they've resurrected the Coke bezel, the black and red colourway first seen on the Rolex 16760 from 1982. It's paired here with gilt accents on the bezel, the hands, and the indices. It's available on a 3-link oyster-style bracelet, which luckily retains the faux rivets, otherwise no one would have anything to complain about. That one's priced at $3,960, or you can have it on a rubber strap for $3,770. And both have the T-fit clasp with on-the-fly micro-adjustment. Next up, there's a new Black Bay 58 in 18 carats yellow gold. Clearly following the trend for gold watches that began last year, both the case and the bracelet are in solid 18 karat gold, paired with a green dial and a green bezel. Inside this one is the MT 5400 movement, the same one used in the Black Bay 58 in 925 sterling silver, which is a COSC-certified chronometer movement. The price on this one is an eye-watering £27,610. Finally, for the new releases, Tudor has added to its Claire de Rose line of ladies' watches, with a beautiful blue dial to complement the existing white dial versions. I think these are really attractive watches, which have a bit of a Cartier vibe to them, which is definitely not a bad thing. So what do I think of these new releases from Tudor? Well, After all the speculation and the hype that's been building over recent weeks, with me, these have fallen a little flat. Well, like most people, I was fully expecting more colours for the Black Bay 41, so that was no surprise. And this 18 karat gold Black Bay 58, well, it feels like it's a little late to the yellow gold party, and at £27,500, I can't imagine that there are going to be many people queuing up for it, especially in the current economic climate. I mean, at that price, there are lots of other options from other brands, even precious metal pieces, especially if you're going to buy on the secondary market. And while this new Black Bay 58 GMT is definitely going to silence all the critics of the thickness of the Black Bay GMT, for me, the black and red colour scheme on the bezel, when combined with those gilt accents, doesn't really work. But hey, I know that colours are subjective, and I'm sure there'll be just as many people out there who love it. I also think I might be getting a little tired of dive-style GMTs. I mean, I like GMTs in general, and I love my Black Bay Pro, but more so because it has those Explorer 2 vibes, rather than being another dive watch. And I don't know about you, but I've always felt that Tudor has been ahead of the curve. But with some of these new releases, I kind of feel like they're reading the room wrong, or maybe a day late and a dollar short with current market trends. I mean, people were going crazy for GMTs in 2022, and the Black Bay Pro was perfectly timed to capitalize on the hype. The same goes for gold watches. I mean, they made a big resurgence last year. But I guess that some of these new models released today have probably been in the pipeline for about 2 years. And back then, when the market was at its peak, people would have been queuing around the block if you'd got a Timex and written Tudor on it. I guess I was just expecting more. Like many people, I was hoping for an updated Black Bay 58, especially after those pictures in Esquire magazine back in January, which appeared to show a new Black Bay 58, but styled much more like the Black Bay 54. So those are my initial thoughts, but I'll let you know if I change my mind after I've got hands-on with these watches later in the week. But I would love to know your thoughts, so do drop me a comment down below. I'll be at Watches and Wonders on Friday, and as well as seeing Tudor, I'm also going to be interviewing the CEO of Moser, and also having meetings with some other independent brands, which I'm super excited about. As ever, you can really help the channel by giving this video a like or leaving a comment. But running the channel and buying the gear that I need, and things like these trips to Geneva, don't come cheap. And I don't make a lot of money from ad revenue. I'm not a fan of online begging, but I've got to find ways to cover my costs. So I've decided to turn on the super thanks button below. If you want to support me, and you can send a couple of pounds or a couple of dollars, then you'd be an absolute star. And guys, look out for more content coming with all my experiences from Watches and Wonders.